Hello and welcome to the Apex Racing League GT Championship, live on Apex Racing TV and live on the iRacing Esports Network. My name is Sam Fitzpatrick, and alongside me is Adam Hedgecock with Sam Kumo, operating the cameras tonight. And we are here for the penultimate round of the championship, round 7 from Okayama. And Adam, today we could see a champion crown. Tom McMahon has been the man to beat this season. He's got so many race victories, 8 race victories to his name. He's got a lead in the championship. And as long as he has some solid results with the drop round, he could seal the championship with 1 round remaining.
It certainly seems inevitable, doesn't it? He's been irresistible all season. The consistency has just been unreal, to be fair. And no matter what the guys behind were throwing at him, he always seemed to have an answer for them, which is, kudos to him. It's an incredible achievement given the quality we've got in the field. So it'll be interesting to see if he can round it out to tonight.
Yeah, 8 wins so far for him this season. He needs to be outscored by Vysokopska in second place. He's had a stunning season himself, Vysokopska, 6 podiums out of 12 races. Hasn't finished outside the top 10 for the entire season. But he needs to outscore him by 34 points, which is quite a bit. We'll keep you up to date with the points as we go along. And you can also see that in the Amateur Championship, it's pretty close as well. With Tom Stevens currently leading the way over Kev Copeland, but Copeland has come back very strong in recent rounds for the B team. Really have been strong. And there's plenty of others as well to get in the mix as well. Got a slightly depleted field today, just over 20 drivers around this Okayama circuit. It's a circuit which I always say, Adam, is the most underused in iRacing. I think this place can pretty much serve any purpose. Maybe, I don't know, Le Mans series you would struggle to do, but dare I say even IMSA you could probably operate around this circuit. It's a decent width. It's got pretty standard corners, nothing to really kind of confuse the drivers out there and cause massive issues. So it's just nice to see these GTE cars do some laps around here.
I have to say, I don't mind the track. It's the tarmac that I don't get on with.
Oh.
I often find that when I race here, I overheat the tyres. Doesn't matter what I'm driving in. I always seem to overheat the tyres, and I could never figure out why, because I like to think of myself as a fairly smooth driver. I don't punish tyres too badly, but here, I just couldn't get a handle on it. But either way, these drivers have got it in front of them tonight. Be interesting to see in the second race if any of them do start having the tyres go away from them. That could spice up the racing just a little bit, but it should be fun. The hairpin's going to be the big one, isn't it? The hairpin on lap 1 and 2, seeing who's going to send big dives up the inside to gain some positions should be fun.
Yeah, that's going to be the main overtaking opportunity. However, it's not a massive breaking area. I was doing some iRacing Grand Prix series around here in the old Williams car. I finished in second place. But I wasn't overtaken for the entire time because it's really tricky to overtake around this place. And the hairpin is for your best opportunity. You got to get really close coming out of turn 3 or 4 or 5, whatever you're going to call it, the long right-hander. But because you kind of got a lot of banking through the hairpin, you can brake extremely late, which does limit the overtaking opportunity because you have a slightly smaller braking range for the drivers to take advantage of. Dan Saddington currently out there. He's currently in 15th place, negotiating these very tight hairpins. It is a very slow speed track, this, particularly at the end of the lap. Saddington, if anything, I think just backing off at the moment. A couple of not so good first couple of sectors, 4 sectors around this lap. He doesn't even get to complete that last lap. So the drivers will line up. I think they line up on the back straight round this circuit. No, in the middle of the third of the final sector. So there you go. Mike Vysokopska on pole position then. That's his second pole position of the season. He took pole last time out at Spa, but lost the lead at least to McMahon on the first lap. He needs to keep McMahon behind him again. Aaron Powell, winner at Watkins Glen, one of the most difficult to predict drivers out on the track, where he starts up in third place ahead of Taj Edwards. Daniel Lee and Mike Horder line up on the third row of the grid. Then Stephen Broomfield, James Salt with a slightly disappointing qualifying down in 8th. Then it's Bob Humphrey. Top of the amateur drivers is Jensen Adriansen. Then it's Kevin Kittelman, third place in the amateur championship, I believe. Then it's Dean Powell, John Tressida, Kev Copeland, he'll be looking for big points. Dan Sanderson, Max Wolf, way down in 16th place. Remember, a podium sitter, one of the most competitive drivers in the series, but he really does struggle in qualifying. Derek Holland starts in 17th. Then it's Carl Jacquelet, Daniel Sivi Sabo, Ryan Jones, Andre McCullen, Brandon Warren, and Paul Joseph Clist for Year One Racing, rounding out this 23 car field. And the pace car will soon lead us away. But yeah, it's going to be that first lap, I guess, isn't it, Adam, for Bicyclopska? Get through that first lap, and he might even have the pace to start pulling away from McMahon, because this isn't a Spa, for example, which we visited last time out, where you can just stick in the draft for the race. You do have a viable chance of, making a break for it.
He does, yeah. The back straight is relatively long, so they do have an opportunity to get a little bit of draft. But you're right, it's not dependent like the Spa, like the Watkins. So he's got an opportunity if he can get his first few apexes nailed and get the tyres working pretty quickly. He's got a real good chance to pull away. He did go fastest in practice as well, so he's looking good. But never rule out McMahon. Never rule him out.
Daniel Sivi Sabo starting from the pits. He did set a qualifying time, so I have faith that we will see him out on track for the Hungarian. But meanwhile, out in the lead, it is Biskopska versus McMahon. What's going to happen in the Amateur Championship as well? Some big changes potentially happening in that one. There's Gold Racing Team leading the field away. Biskopska goes pretty early. And we are away racing for 25 minutes at Okayama. Straight away, McMahon is going to almost have an opportunity going into turn one. He looks to the inside into turn one. Will he go for it? Biskopska very deep on the bits, and he holds on to the lead going through the first corner. Second corner, he's still under pressure though. Behind him, very few chains. Horder gets past Lee, so nice start for him. Also, Copeland gets him past Chester, so that could be big for the championship. Lee straight away trying to come back now on the 4GT. But there's no way through into the right-hander. Now this is going to be the opportunity for the drivers down this back straight into the hairpin, the biggest braking area on the entire circuit. But Lee is dropping time at the moment to the Ford, but he's still within diving range potentially. Horden knows this, just puts his car to the middle of the track, and there's no way through for the H2 engineering car at the moment. And meanwhile, Biskopska managed to keep McMahon behind him. So very little changing at the moment. I think partially because Biskopska went so early, they've all got into single file pretty much immediately. There goes Lee.
They did, yeah. Lee's all over the back of Horder, isn't he? Really trying, but at the same time, he's got Broomfield right behind him, just keeping him honest, right on his gearbox there. Kittleman right on the back of Adrianson's as well for the AM lead. Sam, I don't know about you, but I was a little bit surprised that Biskopska didn't cover the inside earlier on turn one. He seemed to leave it wide open for a moment. I thought McMahon was just going to throw it in and ask the question straight away.
I thought the exact same thing down into turn one, because you're not going to get a much better opportunity to overtake here. I don't know. We don't visit this place too much, so I'm saying a lot of this difficult to overtake stuff. We might see chopping and changing throughout this race for the lead. I don't know. Oh, off the circuit is Max Wolf at turn two. We often see contact there, and he's lost it pretty early. Once if he dips a wheel onto the grass, perhaps on corner entry. And Max Wolf, he needs to finish in the top 14 or so to make sure that he finishes. Also to make sure that he's within the reverse grid, although we could potentially see quite a small reverse grid today, seeing that we've only got 23 drivers watching it, all of them still running. There goes Kevin Kittelman. He is trying to come back at Kev Copeland after losing that position on the opening lap. Apologies, actually, Copeland making up another place then. So he's got 2 places now as Kevin Copeland, and he's now to 3rd place out of the amateur drivers.
I have to say, Copeland's almost been reborn since we've done that podcast, hasn't he? Like, since that moment, he's taken on board what we were saying, about being the nearly guy and just pushing that a little bit harder. And lo and behold, the second half of the season, he's been mega. Up to P3 now in the AMs and chasing down Powell.
Had a good Le Mans as well, I think, where he was fighting for the top 10 for much of the day. But yeah, ever since then, he's scored a heap of points. And at the moment, I'm not seeing any Tom Stevens out on track. So this could be a bit of an open goal for him. Stevens has got a decent drop score, I believe, where we could exit this round with Kev Copeland in the lead of the championship. He's got a little bit of gap back to Kittelman, and Atkinson would have to do something properly spectacular, finish probably up in the top 5 overall in order to start to make up the gap that he's currently at a deficit to. Vysokowski under big pressure from McMahon. It's down to a tenth of a second, and Vysokowski does cover the inside there. He didn't cover it at the start of the race, but he had to cover it on that occasion. And this is inviting Aaron Powell on the teams, which is an Evo SR driver, remember. Taj Edwards as well, not too far behind, and Horder and Lee for that matter.
Yeah, these do start battling, and all of a sudden you've got a group of 6 or maybe even 8 in a line, all vying to get to the front of this pack. It'd be interesting to see how Vysokowski deals with this, because we saw him try and overtake McMahon at Spa, didn't we, doing the same thing over and over again. I'm just wondering if McMahon's going to take that on board and realise, you know, it's once the driver in front's got a rhythm going and knows where the attack's coming from, maybe just going to switch it up just a touch, just to make it harder for him. I'd like to see someone trying around the outside at the hairpin and have the inside for that left-hander coming down the hill. Maybe that will be a good opportunity for someone to roll the dice and give it a go.
I think as these drivers get more impatient with one another, they'll probably have to resort to such moves. Fastest first sector of anyone for Mike Horder. I mean, they're all within a tenth of a second of one another, but it's still something for him. He's very much within draft range right now of Edwards. However, Edwards with the slipstream from Powell, but Horder's certainly going to have an opportunity. He's gaining. Does Edwards dip out of the draft to cover the inside? He's not at the moment. Now he puts his car slightly in the middle. Horder, not usually the most rash of the drivers out there, and he does stay behind. Off the circuit behind is Atkinson's. No, it's Broomfield, completely by himself. That is a surprising mistake. It's tricky to go off the circuit there because of the banking that I was mentioning earlier on.
I do wonder, we're going to see a replay now. I do wonder if he just lost track of his braking point, maybe maybe snatched a wheel on the way in. Easy to do in these cars. He just carried a little bit too much speed and locked up. Yeah, because they've got no ABS. If you carry too much speed, it's very hard to recover. Did well, though, to stop it before the barrier and avoided the guys coming behind him. But got it all to do now, hasn't he, Broomfield?
Did you ever race this car in World GT at all? Well, apologies, actually. We got Horder. He might be able to gain a couple of places here. He's round the outside of one. He might even have the inside of the second one. It's not quite, and that was nearly move of the season because they were so busy fighting one another. Feel bad for Edwards. They was completely boxed in. And Powell was nearly done as well. But now that Horder is up into fourth, you feel like it's only a matter of time till he gets past the Evo SR car as well. Remember, Horder with a couple of podiums so far this season, a couple of second places in races in race 2. After an underwhelming start to the season, and of course missing the Phillip Highland round as well. He's come back really strong recently at Watkins Glen and Spa. Like it could be another podium for him at the moment, but not quite there. Yeah, what I was going to ask you, Adam, was whether or not you raced around here in these cars in World GT at all.
I did. Actually, I might have done. Maybe in the Porsche. I forget what I raced in World GT. I've done a few seasons now. Yeah, I mean, I have raced around in these type of cars. Edwards getting really close to the back of Horder there, wasn't he? It is quite tough because a lot of these corners are kind of quite late braking, but not particularly hard. It's very easy to carry too much speed in a lot of these corners. So easy to lock up if you're not careful. See Edwards having a little look on Horder, just keeping his mirrors full, isn't he? Just keeping him on his toes. It looks like Powell's managed to pull away just a touch in that last lap, though. So yeah, we'll see how this one plays out.
And if Horder doesn't have the slipstream down into the down the back straight, then he could be in trouble from behind. Lee, in fact, now struggling to keep up with Edwards as well. He's got a second wind. All of a sudden, these guys now 3 seconds off the leading two. You have got half a second between the pair of them. I'm just wondering if Edwards will be able to catch out Horder, who has been very cautious on the grids. I don't know if that's just because he's cautious with his racecraft today, or whether he's just taking a different approach to that hairpin. But that time, no problems whatsoever. Tight battle between Broomfield and Copeland. I think Broomfield got past Copeland after spinning off earlier on, of course, at the hairpin. I think he's recently re-overtaken Kevin Copeland as Brandon Warren has an off. He's down to 19th place. That's a couple of places lost for him.
I tell you what, I'm really surprised with how Warren's season's gone. I mean, that just kind of caps it all off, doesn't it? It's been very hit and miss. Last season, he was right up there with the opportunistic positions that he would gain. Some good driving, but it always kind of makes something of a bad race. But this season, he's been off the boil more than he's been on it, to be honest. And it's such a shame because he's quick. We saw that he was quick last season, but this season just hasn't worked out for him.
I think the lack of satellite drives that we've seen this season perhaps just harming him a little bit. I think we saw that with Nick Rowland as well in the early rounds of the championship. Rowland's one of the most competitive drivers last season, gained many podiums, and I think once maybe Andre and Caroni and Anja all weren't quite giving their input, perhaps satellite just struggling a little bit. Might be great to see a bit more of them next season. They have had some other commitments, unfortunately, this season. Which meant that they haven't been able to do as many rounds as they'd like. But let's see Warren once again representing that team. But he's got some catching up to do now in 19th place. Max Wolf ahead of Dan Sainz. He should be able to start pulling away. Wolf on that last lap, he did a 26.8. About 1 second slower than the front runners. And that's kind of the same pace as the front running amateur drivers at the moment, which is what we expect from the Dutch driver who has struggled in races 1. However, he's very competitive in the race 2. So has got a podium earlier on in the season at Silverstone. Of course, Jacquelet and Holland are battling. It was very close for a moment between the two of them. Jacquelet staying in 15th place.
He's just doing enough to stay ahead at the moment, isn't he? But we know from watching Holland over the last couple of seasons, he won't give anyone a minute of rest, will he? He'll keep hounding and hounding and hounding until you either submit or you've driven an absolute blinding defensive race. Can I just say as well, now that we had the discussion about the liveries halfway through the season, these Indy Sport liveries are gorgeous. I love them. So much better now that they've got them all sorted.
They're much more uniform now, aren't they? They had some various. I think Jensen might still be running something different, but the other Indy Autosports guys are all in sync, which is very nice to see. And they have taken a bit more of a simple livery once again, but no, it's a nice step up from last season. Absolutely, can't wait to see what they produce for future seasons. Jacquelet, no problems to the hairpin right there. Out in the lead, 25.78 for both of them, equal to the what do you call it? The not milliseconds. Is it a millisecond if it's 100th of a second? I don't know, but a small amount was the difference between the front two. On this lap, McMahon does take out about a 1/10.5, however, so it's half a second between the front two, but no sign of a move at the moment. Here they are. Also, Edwards and Lee pretty close to one another. I don't think Vizkovska will be under pressure into the hairpin, and this would be, believe it or not, his first win of the season, which is crazy to think, Adam. If it weren't for McMahon, you could probably say he would have had 5 or 6 wins by this time, because these two have been have had a cushion to every other driver this season. So we just wait for Adam for a moment just to sort a couple of technical difficulties. But yeah, meanwhile, Horder, rather than looking ahead at Powell, he's at 18th of a second behind Powell. That's kind of where you start to lose the draft from the car ahead. Edwards, 0.3 of a second behind him. Is there any chance at a surprise move into these couple of hairpins? So not into the second one. Wait to see some interesting moves at during race 2 in that part of the track. And Horder moves on to lap 10 as we've got Carl Jacquelet now off the circuit. That's him down to down a couple of places, and also Holland as well. Is he going to be done by Saddington? It's a pretty narrow part of the circuit, quick corner, and Holland is behind Saddington, who gains a couple of places in quick succession. Back up into 16th place now as Dean Powell goes skating off the circuit, and he misses the wall by a very fine margin, and he remains in 12th place. That was a battle with Copeland. He's certainly come off the worst. As we see what happened to Jacquelet a moment ago, with the close proximity of the Porsche behind, it looks like it may have been contact, but it was anything but. But then it was contact soon after. I think that would have been Derek Holland who had to come to pretty much a halt. And that is hence why Holland lost the position then to Saddington. So it's all coming together. It's all coming together. Yeah, Holland's now going to have to come back. However, he is probably going to back himself to overtake the lime green car just in front of him. Powell back under pressure now from Horder. It's back down to half a second on this lap. Powell lost about 0.2 of a second through sector 2, then 3.5 of a second through sector 3. I struggle to define what part of the lap that is, but it is a part of the lap. This circuit fits itself so well into having 3 sectors. You have this first part of the lap, which is fast speed corners, and then you need to have the second parts of the lap, which is basically the back straight and maybe the hairpin. And then you need to have the last part of the lap, which is just all the hairpins. Instead, iRacing throw that idea out of the window and make 4 sectors, which are very tricky to define. But I believe this is sector 2 that they are negotiating at the moment. You can check out the lap times of all these drivers in the live timing link in the description below, provided by SDK Gaming. If you click on that, then you can see the last lap times, their best lap times, the gaps between all the drivers. It's some really useful stuff, and of course thanks to SDK Gaming as well for providing this fantastic overlay that we have, and you can have your own overlay just like this one and even customize it yourself a little bit as Horder is spun round by Taj Edwards, and they are going to lose a lot of time. And it's not the first time that Horder's had issues in race ones. He's become a little bit of a habit of having issues in race 1. Usually comes back in race 2, but he's setting himself a tall order, and they're still battling with one another. But Edwards will let that one go quite easy because it seemed to be pinned all on him. It was the replay, and Edwards, the move was never really on. And I'm surprised. I mean, you can forgive the first bit of contact. Then the second and third bits, just impatient on the third. So he is based in Jamaica, of course. I believe he's based in Jamaica at least. So you can kind of understand the netcode, but I don't think there was any netcode involved there. And now they are, if there's any silver line, we'll be starting further up for the second race. It means that Adriansons is up into 7th place. Now, I was saying earlier how Adriansons is going to need some top 5s in order to bring himself back into championship contention. Well, that is what he's doing at the moment, although he is about 100 points off the lead at the moment. It would be an incredible comeback to bring it back. He would need a big favour from the others. Unfortunate for Copeland that he was unable to leapfrog Horder and Edwards despite their issues just a moment ago. Humphrey now up to 6th place. We haven't really seen him all day either. But I think cameras are going to have to be focused on Stephen Broomfield because he's the one having to hold off the former former front runners. There he is. Broomfield, Horder, Edwards. Copeland 1 second behind. What are the lap times this time around? 27.4 for Broomfield. Apologies, that was the lap before. 26.6. It's not bad for Broomfield. It's about 0.7 of a second slower than the leaders, but pretty much matching the handful of cars in front of him. And Edwards, from being rather passive before, letting Horder go, in the final corner. Now he's starting to push a bit more. Broomfield with a huge slide. And that was Japanese tarmac. That was incredible. It's rare that you see a slide like that on iRacing, which a driver is able to recover. Brilliant to see. He had a slide earlier on as well, but here comes Horder. He's early on the brakes once again. He's always very reluctant to risk locking a wheel into that corner as the boosted car, who is almost escorted to the outskirts of the circuit. Maybe the Ferrari is trying to help out his teammate, but it doesn't work. And here comes Copeland with a lot of overspeed. A few places on the cards for the pretty much the championship leader-elect, championship leader in waiting, as long as he does finish both races today. So half a second behind Edwards, but that was a good recovery there from Broomfield after looking like that move was certain to disappear. On to lap 14 now are these drivers. And Ford looking to the inside. Oh, Broomfield was taking an alternative line, and I hesitate to say he was moving in the braking area, but he kind of just took an early apex there on that occasion, just to cut off the line for the Ford, who's once again very close. We've seen very few overtakes into this right hand, despite the fact that it's one of the main overtaking spots, perhaps the second best overtaking spot on the entire circuit. He got that kind of run from turn 2, and Horder right in the tie. However, the fact they couldn't get the move done on the last lap does put a lot of jeopardy into whether he'll be able to make the move on this lap, because he was pretty much in the ideal position on the last lap. Not on this one, but he gets a gifting hand because Broomfield, for the second time, locks his front right into the hairpin and runs out of room. I'll question the brake bias on that machine, because once again, just locking up the tyres and going in way too deep into a pretty wide corner. And Horder moves back up into 8th place, which all but seals as he gets a few more touches from Edwards. One wasn't enough, and Horder, I think, will be rightfully so a little bit aggrieved right now. Edwards, I imagine, will be complaining that Horder was just too slow on the apex, but that could have spelt disaster for the second time in this race. Horder now to try to catch Adrianson, but Adrianson's in the low 27s. His phenomenal pace is well cleared, as I believe we might have Adam Hedgecock back. Adam is always.
There we go.
I don't.
Oh God! No, there we go.
Yeah, Adam. Oh wow, that was
Oh, I swear, so many buttons. I do apologise.
I mean, I don't know what button that is, but I think you should disable it. To be honest, that was yeah. I won't unhear that. Anyway, welcome back. You've been watching your teammate Mike Horder bouncing along. I don't know what's happening with Edwards currently. He's losing his marbles right now, making all this contact into the same corner.
He is. Oh, who's that around?
Jones.
Just on the
Back marker.
just as they go past it. But yeah, I did hear over the team radios that he's not very happy behind Mike. He feels that Mike is brake checking a little bit, but yeah, he's really having to defend hard, isn't he? It's going to be pretty tough to keep Edwards behind there, you feel?
I'm not sure if you want to finish ahead, to be honest, because like I said, they should be good for the reverse grid. I'm sure both these guys would love to get a race win. Edwards already has, to be fair, at race 2 at Le Mans. But Horder's yet to get a race win. I'm sure Edwards would like to get another race win this season, because well, only one man has got more than one race win this season. It's Tom McMahon. He swallowed them all up from the other guys. Speaking of Tom McMahon, he is still in second place, 7/10 to a second behind Vaskowski. You just wonder if he's playing the championship game. Edwards, he wants to get third place in the championship. He might be losing it at the moment to Salt, because Salt is in a quiet 5th place at the moment, and Edwards not going for the move into the hairpin. It's strange, isn't it? The lack of overtakes we've seen into the hairpin so far. I know I was expecting big old dive bomb, get the car on the inside, kind of do a nice block pass on your rival, but that really hasn't been the case.
It hasn't. I do get a feeling that these cars, because they don't have the ABS, you do break that little bit earlier, don't you? You kind of bleed the brakes off as you get closer to the apex. So I do wonder if, because they're not stopping as quickly, it's harder to throw one up the inside. It has made for a fascinating viewing, though. Like we was discussing before about the Hungary Grand Prix. That being a difficult track to overtake. This is doing exactly what we were talking about, isn't it? That they're going to have to get creative to get these moves done. And as we've seen, for the most part, people generally just don't have enough kind of creativeness at this moment in time to actually make the positions. I would be interested to see, though, just on Horder and winning. Of course, the last two race twos, we've seen him get quite a big lead, only to be pulled back by McMahon and finish second, haven't we? So I'm sure he'll want to break that duck as well.
Do you see break that duck?
Yes, meaning it's a cricket term, meaning he hasn't scored in that position.
I thought it was ducked for this entire time.
No, it's a duck.
But what duck are you breaking?
A duck is a zero score in cricket. So if you go out ball one, then that's a golden duck, and if you go out with a zero score, you get a duck. So Horder has been leading the race twice in the last two race twos, but hasn't converted it, so he's still on a zero for that. Hence, wanting to break that duck.
I mean, I'm just mind blown that I've been getting that saying wrong this whole time. I always thought it was break that duct, whatever a duct is. It takes me back to IT Club, basically, with a damp squid, and such. Anyway, make Vice falls into a second ahead. Been second best so many times this season. He's second place in the championship. It doesn't look like he's going to take the championship win 4 times in second place. He's had a couple of third places as well. But he put it on pole position. It seems like finally McMahon isn't going to be beaten. Won't be 4 races in a row for McMahon, but it will be a first race win for Make Weissakopsuka, who wins for Gold Racing Team at Okayama. Congratulations to him. It's been a long time coming, and it's a very well-deserved win, and it does keep the championship alive for a bit. Broomfield, what's happened with Broomfield? He's gone off again, and he's made contact with Dean Powell, it seems, who was on course for a good result, was the amateur driver. Broomfield now having to defend against Wolf. The tribulations that these two have been in to find themselves in these positions. It will be Broomfield to finish in 13th and potentially a good position for the reverse grid. Wolf lining up just behind him. What a close finish that was. We'll have to get eyes on what happened. It means that Copeland, I think Copeland was behind those drivers. Copeland might go up into 10th place because of that, which is really important for the championship.
It is, yeah. Broomfield, he's had a bit of a nightmare this race one, hasn't he? He outbroke himself twice and made contact on that last lap. Again, I'm interested to see what actually happened there. Maybe they're just both pushing so hard for the final corners to get that last position. But yeah, very uncharacteristic from him.
Yeah, so Broomfield finishes 13th. To be fair, having 3 offs and still finishing in that place. I think he may take that one. But yeah, Weissakopsuka wins out, and we have got all the drivers across the line. So there we are. 60 points for Weissakopsuka. Did he get the bonus points? I can't even see it at the moment. Maybe if I order it in a different way. No, that's not happening. No, I think he got 0 incidents, which would be a bonus point as well, which would mean he got 61 points. It'd make Weissakopsuka. Congrats to him. 3.5 tenths of a second clear of Tom McMahon. It was never much more than that. Aaron Powell a quiet third place in the end, but that's only his second podium of the season after that race win at Watkins Glen, of course. Daniel Lee finishes in fourth, and James Salter very quiet fifth, but good points for his battle for third place in the championship. Bob Humphrey finishes in sixth. Jensen Adriansen, another really good result for him. He's really been probably the most competitive amateur driver in these past few rounds. He finishes in seventh. Mike Horder finishes in eighth. There's Taj Edwards. Kev Copeland. Great news for his championship. Pretty much as a championship leader now in the amateur category, which is massive for him. Then it was John Chester, Dean Powell, Stephen Broomfield, Max Wolf, Dan Saddington, Derek Holland, Carl Jacquelet, Kevin Kitzelman, whose championship is really scuppered by that. Daniel Sibi Sabo, Andre McCullen, Brandon Warren, Paul Joseph Clist, and a few laps down was Ryan Jones. In fact, Warren and Clist were also 1 lap down, so they won't be eligible for the reverse grid. And the reverse grid, I think we can have as large as potentially minus 14. So we could be in for a big reverse grid coming up in a small reverse grid, apologies, coming up in a few moments' time. Sam Kume, it's time to spin that reverse grid wheel.
Yeah, thanks. So wheel is here, and we do have plenty of options, so let's just see what we get. The wheel is spinning. And it will be minus 12.
Minus 12, so it is going to be a small one. 20 minus 12 is 18, is 8, not 18, 8. So it will be an 8 reverse grid, which means that Mike Horder, I mean, I don't know if Mike hacks into